No big, I feel like Pac. I shoot a shot. I'm coming in hot.
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel and thank you so much for tuning in. I wanted to do a quick video over obedience because that's an area that I feel like I have struggled with at times, but there's things that I've learned about it that I figured I could share with you all. But wait, pause. If you have noticed, maybe, yeah, you probably have at this point. If you're watching this, then yeah, my name is not the same anymore. I am Lexi Ariel. So if you didn't know, now you know. And trying out new hairstyles, I don't know, we're gonna figure it out. My goal is to figure out how to comb my hair aside from the buns and the ponytails. Because your girl, growing up, all I knew was the pressing curls, y'all. The pressing curls and a curly ponytail. And I'm trying to branch out. I would really like to get some more box braids, and I would really like to cut my hair again. So we'll see. But anyways, back to this. So I have learned, well, we all have heard at some point in time, or maybe you haven't, maybe you have, partial obedience, delayed obedience. It's all disobedience. And I feel like at times I have partially obeyed or I haven't obeyed when Christ has told me to do things that I may or may not have necessarily wanted to do. And I feel like when we get to that point to where we're obeying sometimes, or we're doing it halfway, or we're just not obeying at all, we kind of have to ask ourselves, like, okay, what is it? Like, what is causing you to not obey fully? What is causing you to hold back? And so for me, I was like, at the end of last year, I was like, okay, God, you know what? I think the reason I'm not doing everything fully is because I'm afraid. And I think that's because whenever we obey, we know that the promise is on the other side of that. And so that can be kind of scary sometimes because it's like, okay, God, whenever I get into a rhythm and I'm doing everything that I'm supposed to do and I'm obeying and I'm just doing what you said, then I feel like that's when he starts to drop things in your life. And so for me, I was like, okay, if you start dropping stuff in my life, I don't know if I'm able to handle all that. And what if I mess up? And like just all of the what ifs, what ifs based off of fear. And so I had to really ask myself, I was like, Lex, girl, hold on. We're not depending on self, okay? You can't depend on self when it comes to obedience because what he calls you to do, he's going to equip you to handle, and we're going in his strength and not ours. So that's something to be mindful of when he calls us to do something that we're kind of like, I don't really know about that. Also, we know that God is a God of stewardship. So he calls us to be faithful with the little that he entrusts us with. And when he sees that we can be faithful with the little things, then he can give us more things to steward over. And sometimes I think we get so caught up in wanting what's next that we negate what's in front of us. And until he can see us handle the little, then I don't think he's going to give us the next thing because he's a God of stewardship. So we have to make sure that we're taking care of the things that he gives us first before we start asking for the next thing. Because I feel like there's times in life, I've been here, and we're like, hey, yo, Jesus, you told me you was going to do this, and I ain't seeing it, so what's up? What's up? And I think that when we get to that point, there may be a time when he's looking back at us and he's like, yeah, I did say I was going to do that. I did tell you that this was going to happen, but I'm still waiting for you to do this over here. So when you do this over here, then I can give you what you're asking for. And then it's like, ooh, you know what? You're right. I'm gonna be back. Let me go do what you said first. Let me go do what you said so I can see what you said. So sometimes I think we're like, I'm waiting on God. And really, he can be waiting on us because he's only going to do what he can do. But the things that he enables us to do that are within our power, that are within our strength, that are within our might, we have to do. We have to take those steps. We have to move on faith, and we have to allow our faith to be bigger than our fears when it comes to being obedient. And another thing when it comes to obedience is there's other people that are tied to our yes. Like in the same way that Christ's obedience was tied to our deliverance, somebody us is tied to us. And so I know that there are times when I have a lot of days when I'm like, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. And so when I have those I don't want to do it days, I'm like, Lexi, girl, this is not about you. There is somebody else that needs what's inside of you, and until you act on what it is that God has told you to do, they're not going to be able to experience that. And that's selfish. And we don't want to be selfish. So you kind of just got to do it. You got to be obedient. When you have a mindset that's no longer thinking about yourself, when you get out of self and you're like, okay, because whenever I don't want to do something, I literally have to sit with myself and I'm like, Lexi, this is not about you. It's not about what you want to do. It's not about your feelings. Like, not my will, Lord, but yours be done is the kind of attitude that we have to have towards things when he calls us to be obedient, because it's not every day that we're going to want to do what it is that he's asking us to. Christ didn't want to die. He said, remove this cup from me, but not my will, but yours be done. And so that's kind of the attitude that we have to have too. Not my will, but yours be done. And you have to want what he wants more than what you want for yourself. Like, I can go on and on about things that God has told me to do that at times I'm kind of like, why? But why? You know, I think sometimes we get kind of like caught up in the why. It's like, why do I have to do that? And how's it going to work out? And that's none of our business. One of my friends, Swaggy, he's always like, that's none of your business, friend. The how is none of your business. Just do what he said to do and let him worry about the rest. And I'm just like, you know what? You're right, friend. But I know that there's other people out there like me that, you kind of want all the details to everything. And you kind of want to know how things are going to pan out when you do this or when you go there or whatever the case may be. And I have to remind myself all the time, Lexi, the how is none of your business. Just do what he said to do. And a quote that I like is, obedience is on us, but the outcome is on God. And so we have to just do our part and trust that he's going to do his. And I know that there have been times when he's called me to do things and I was like, for what? Why I gotta do that? Like, what do you gain from that? And there are things like, there have been times when he's told me to do things and I'm like, I don't want to do that. And then I talk it out with my friends and they're like, so you just gonna be disobedient? And I'm like, bro, when you say it like that, no, I'm not gonna be disobedient. I'm gonna do it. But I will just say, I have seen the fruits of my obedience and the seeds that I have planted years later. So it's not all the time that you're gonna see the outcome of what you are obeying him to do right away. But just knowing that when you are obedient, you will see the fruits of your labor. Like, it's not in vain, but it won't make sense all the time, because in the Bible and the world, y'all, it's opposite, okay? The world's gonna tell you to go right. Christ is gonna tell you to go left. The world's gonna tell you to go up. Christ is gonna tell you to go down. And so whenever he asks us to do things, it's not always gonna make sense. And so I think that we really have to get out of our feelings and we have to get out of logic sometimes, because the things that Christ wants for us and that what he wants us to do and what he's calling us to may not make sense to our natural mind, but whenever we do it, it's once we step out, when we make that move, when we take that step, that we're able to see the bigger picture at the end of it. I also feel like whenever we're being disobedient, we're frustrated and we're upset and we're just trying to figure out why we're not seeing the things that we want to see, why things aren't happening the way that they're supposed to happen. But when we're obedient, we're peaceful and we're walking in purpose and we're not worried about everything else, because we know that we're doing what he told us to do. And so I think that questions that you should ask yourself is, God, what have you told me to do that I haven't done? What have you told me to do that I've kind of just pushed off to the side? What have you told me to do that I've kind of just been like, I'm gonna do it like this instead? And it's like, nah, fam, that's not what he told you to do. What is it that you're waiting on God to do, but he's probably waiting on you to make that move or take that step? Those are questions I've had to ask myself when it comes to obedience. And then also, what is it that's holding you back from being fully obedient? You know, when you have those real conversations with yourself and you're able to kind of analyze the situation, then it helps you to get more practical, and then you're able to have a more in-depth conversation with him on why you're acting the way that you are, or you're not doing what you're supposed to do, and then he can give you the reassurance that you need to go ahead and make that step, to take that step of faith. Because when he moves, you move, just like that. When he moves, you move, just like that. No, but I mean, obedience isn't always easy, and I have had my fair share of days when I'm just like, I don't want to do it. No. Why? How? But I will say obedience is very rewarding when you do take those steps, when you do what he tells you to do, when you do listen. Don't let your fear be bigger than your faith, and know that whatever he's calling you to do, that he's going to equip you to be able to handle. Like, I've literally had to tell myself that, because I'm just like, but what if it's too much? What if I can't handle it? What if I mess up? You know, these are all like real questions. You know, they're real things that can worry us as humans. You know, especially when he's like, it's gonna be big. And I'm like, ooh, big. I know I've been praying big, but like, how big? You know, like, little old me, like, what are you cooking up, Jesus? What are you cooking up? In the words of Sarah Jakes Roberts, there's a disconnect when you pray, but you don't obey. So I just want to encourage all of you that are watching this to take that step of obedience, to listen and to act upon what it is that he is calling you to do, knowing that obedience isn't about you, because there's other people tied to whatever it is that he's placed on your heart to do, whatever it is that he's calling you to do. And you don't want to be a hindrance, because just as much as our obedience can bless someone and allow them to experience the freedom, the breakthrough, the deliverance that they are hoping and praying for, your disobedience could be the same thing that hinders them from growing. So just keep those things in mind. And thank you guys for tuning in again. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and share this video with all of your family and friends. I am Lecrae.